What's up, everybody? In today's episode 2 of Let's Talk DAT, we're going to talk about the independent healthcare model and different healthcare models and how it pertains to athletic training. So, without further ado, let's get to it.
Hello and happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Welcome back to Let's Talk DAT, where we discuss today's happenings in healthcare. I'm Josh Profit.
I'm Mike Monahan.
And how are you doing, Mike? How's it going?
I can't complain. It's been warmer, so that's kind of nice.
That's
Had
true.
the windows
Apparently
open
it's
today.
supposed to snow here in like a week. So,
Yeah. Dang.
yeah.
Goodness. Well, perks of
Hopefully.
living in the South. We have
Yeah,
that
I wish I
warmer
was back
weather.
in the South. I'll tell you that.
So we're going to kind of talk about the healthcare models today.
Wait.
So yeah.
So, to get into a little bit, there's three different types of healthcare models. Do you know what they are?
Yes.
What are they? I'm gonna test
Well,
your brain a
there's
little
four actually.
bit. Hit me with them. What are they?
The athletic model, the academic model, and then medical model has like two.
Break down the medical ones because I think I may call one differently than you call one.
The internal and the external medical model. So
Okay.
a medical model that's more internal versus like outsiders coming in kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I
contract.
call that extra one independent, which I think is the only change that I have
Gotcha.
compared to yours. But let's talk about the athletics model a little bit. So
Yeah.
the athletics model is one where the athletic trainers report to the athletic director and coaches, correct?
Yeah. And I think just to back this up, we're going to put like we're going to talk about these more specifically to athletic training, and not so much the doctor side of things, although we might get into that down the road. But yeah, so the athletics model is something more where who us as athletic trainers are answering to, which would be the athletics directors, coaches even. This is where it's like we're sharing the budget of coaches, and like our supplies will be shared budget with like uniforms and things like that. So
Yeah. Similarly with the academic model, right? So the academic model, we are reporting to let's say, athletic training department or the dean of students, dean of the college, or professor, president, depending on what your college calls it, of the university. Same thing. The budget is through the academic budget, and it is shared throughout the college.
yes.
Um,
Yep.
So, out of those two, what differentiates the two between the athletics and the academic, would you say?
I mean, I think the biggest one is like just who you answer to, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have more experience with this than I do, since I've been, for the most part, at more of that like external medical model.
Right. And I have personally worked at several different places, so I've gotten the privilege to see all of these models kind of work in a way. And so we can get to that more in a little bit. But let's talk about the two different medical models.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk about the internal medical model? Could you break that down for me a little bit?
Yeah. So the internal, from my understanding, is more so like it's similar to the academic, but it's through a healthcare group, if you will.
Like a hospital, right?
Yeah. Yes. Hospital, clinic, even student health services, I believe. They're reporting to like a director of medicine, right? Typically, it's a physician. Like that's who they report to. Who that director of medicine reports to, I'm unsure about that.
Right. And so in our case, our director of medicine is his boss is the owner of the hospital, pretty much. But he doesn't necessarily have to report to anybody but himself. He
And
is
that's
basically the highest
internal
part of the chain.
you're talking about?
That is our independent model, as we
Yeah.
call it here. Um, but what can you explain the difference between your version of the internal and external version? So, what would you say your external medical model is?
Well, I have like the definitions here if you want me to just read the
Yes,
definitions.
please. You got the definitions. Read them.
Yeah, so the medical model that's external, and I actually got these definitions from an article that we both read. I'll actually share that right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which one is this? The collegiate one. So it's
Yeah.
college, university, independent medical care in COVID-19 era. Benjamin Colletti, Matthew Rivera, and Eberman, Lindsey Eberman were authors of this. We will share last citations will be in the details below. But they define athletics models, academic model, medical model internal, and medical model external. So the medical models, internal is athletic training / sports medicine services are housed in another campus entity such as student health services, hospital, or clinic. Athletic trainers are employees of these entities, ultimately reporting to the director of the department or medical director of services. And then for external, it's ATs / sports medicine services are facilitated by an off-campus, an entity off-campus, such as a clinic. Athletic trainers are employees of these entities, ultimately reporting to the director of the department or medical director of services. So for me, obviously this is collegiate and I'm at the secondary setting, but
Right.
like my model where I am contracted out to a county is closer to the medical model that's external.
I gotcha. And these different medical models don't just have to be at colleges. They are the medical models of high schools, professional teams. They're also industrial athletic trainers who also have their own medical model, um, which we may talk about further in a later episode. But each of these are going to be different, and also they're going to be different depending on the site, right? So, like, I don't know how many places you've been at, Mike, but I've had similar experiences with similar medical models at different universities or schools that work differently. So, like, the athletics model at one school might be different than the athletic models at a different school.
Yeah. And it's
Or,
common to have different ones, especially now
right.
in the collegiate setting. There's changes going on. Like Kansas University was one of the leading ones to go more medical based and not through the athletic department.
Mm-hmm. And then even working in professional sports, like, it's also an athletics model. So
Yeah.
working from that, going through the different settings of athletic models are different too. So
Yeah.
but tell me a little bit about uh, your specific medical model. What
Yeah.
is yours? How does it work? What are the pros and cons?
So mine, I think this is very common for the secondary school setting, although I do see changes locally here in Maryland. But essentially, I work for a company. It's a PT company. PT's typically the employing company. Sometimes it's a hospital system. But, a PT company comes in and says, hey, we'll supply, in my case, it's a county. Sometimes it's districts, whatever. They'll say, hey, we'll supply these schools with an athletic trainer. Sometimes they make the county or whatever entity pay them. Sometimes they're like, we'll do it for free. For me, my county does pay my company. It's not even half my salary though. And my company kind of justifies me being there essentially by like they're going to end up getting referrals from me probably, right? It's not necessarily like I've never really felt pressure for them to like pressure for me to have to refer there.
You don't have a quota or anything, do you? Is it just
No, but we do get, and I don't know how this works legally, but we would get a bonus if we have more referrals over our goal essentially, but we don't get any negative repercussions if we never reach our goal.
is your goal an unreasonable number, or is
No,
it like
not at
a
all. It's really
okay?
low.
So like you usually in a typical season, would you meet it anyway?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think that's how they justify it, and I get it, the business side of that. I think that's luckily a little more morally and ethically sound versus
Yeah.
some coworkers may just try to refer directly out and cash a big check essentially. That's one of my biggest issues with this model.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about this model, though, is that it does promote a little bit more of a work-life balance in the sense of they don't want us to get burnt out. We are at low capacity right now already, and so they're really encouraging us to do under 40 hours. If it's over 40 hours, we get extra pay for it. And like I could straight up leave in the middle of a game if I wanted to because I was over on hours or something, and they would have my back. I don't think I would ever have the nerve to do that, and I would like to think that I could plan enough to where like that wouldn't happen. But I did have to do something similar. It was preseason, and there was a scrimmage, right? The varsity tri-scrimmage was on the schedule. So I did it was soccer. I did 3 soccer games on a Saturday, right? And then JV starts warming up for their tri-scrimmage that was not on the schedule or told to me. So I was like, all right, 3 more soccer games? I'm like, I'm already at like 46 hours. I was like, I'm leaving. I was like, you guys did not give me heads up. And I told my boss, and, like the coaches for the soccer coaches, they didn't have an issue with it. They like understood and everything. But in other cases, like that probably wouldn't have gone that well. So
Right, especially if you're thinking of like an athletics model where it's like, okay, these guys are the ones paying, maybe not paying the checks, but they're the ones who are overseeing you, so you got to be there anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's almost unheard of in an athletics model.
Yeah.
But yeah, the downside is, it's secondary school setting. I don't get to do a lot of like treatment. And I think the company's okay with that, if that makes sense. They're like, oh, we'd rather you refer anyways.
Yeah.
But,
And I think not all medical models like that are referred out to a PT company. As like I know some of the secondary schools in which I worked in a couple different states worked through just a hospital in general.
yeah.
And it was less based on referrals as far as I'm aware of. Maybe they were, and I just didn't know it at the time because I was a student athletic trainer.
So there's there was a local place that had athletic trainers hired by a hospital company,
right.
And they were paid better than we were, but the hospital company actually, their preferred method was to send kids to urgent care, so that it would be an extra doctor's visit, and then they can refer it to their orthopedic after urgent care season. So, which I hate it because I was like, all right, first off, you're literally just trying, like, this is morally wrong. Like, and I'm like, what's your value in us if, like, you're like, oh, let's trust, nothing against urgent care, but, like,
right.
I feel like
Using that system to get more money is morally and ethically wrong.
But, like, athletic trainers are good at triaging. Like, I will send a kid to urgent care if I think they need to go to urgent care. I'm not going to send him to urgent care if it's like, oh, I think they have a stress fracture, right? Because then urgent care is going to do an x-ray, say it's not broken, and then follow it with the orthopedic.
Right. And I mean, do you think somebody like that's going to feel the pressure from at least the physicians or like some backlash if they didn't send someone to that? Like if they're like, oh, I don't think this is necessary. And then it's like all of a sudden they're healed.
I'm not sure.
Like, yeah.
Because in the secondary school setting, like
Mhm.
a lot happens at the school that our management has no idea about.
Right, right.
So it's like, how often do they actually show up to spectate us? And I haven't had anybody show up to my school in a long while to see how I take care of people,
Right.
which I think we can allude to our second article here, actually,
Hmm.
which is, I'm going to pull it up on the screen.
All right.
The secondary school athletic trainers perceived confidence in providing independent medical care within differing healthcare delivery models. There are the authors. We'll cite it below. Once again, Dr. Rivera and Eberman are on this one as well. So let's go Indiana State.
Oh, yeah.
But in here, and I actually have the paper copies here, it does talk about, it's interesting because it talks about, you read these, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
actually, I pulled up right here on my screen.
It's interesting because in the article itself, right,
Yeah.
it talks about how participants, which were athletic trainers, right, they asked athletic trainers essentially a bunch of questions in regards to their healthcare models that they work under, and then confidence if there was any influence in their decision making.
Right.
And participants indicated that they were confident or very confident in providing independent medical care when they were wait, which one was this one? Sorry.
Are you looking at the college one or the high school one?
High school.
Okay, I'm looking at the wrong one. Are you talking about the decision-making authority?
Oh, here we go. Participants within the school district healthcare model rated themselves as confident in providing independent medical care even when hired by the same entity as coaches or administrators by 90%, which I thought was interesting. So that's
Yeah.
the opposite of what my model is, right? That's talking about if they worked for the school system, right? And this is the secondary
Mhm.
school system.
Right.
However, if you were like an outreach like mine, they rated themselves as confident in providing independent healthcare less often, only 65% of the time. I think this is really interesting because it kind of goes. We alluded a little bit of our sphere of influence in the first episode and motivation, but it's like, okay, how do we know if we're getting influenced, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, and athletic trainers have a lot of pride, right? And so it's like, are
Absolutely.
you willing to accept that you're influenced? So I'm
Well, you're
confident
right.
that I've definitely been influenced,
Oh, yeah.
whether that was a negative outcome or not, you know. Um, and I think, but that confidence in not being influenced, I think
And also,
proves,
where do you think your influence is coming from? Because in the model, my influence might not be coming from my director. It might be coming from that outside source. Like for me, if I'm in this independent model, I might not be being directed by the coach, but that coach might still influence me on what care I do.
yeah, for
Not,
sure.
yeah,
Like
or
it,
like the patient too.
and I'm not
The
even
patient,
saying it's a bad influence, right? I've
yeah,
I've
yeah,
had
yeah.
things where it's like, okay, I have this coach with this team. I
Mhm.
know that I can slowly return them to play, and this coach
Yeah,
will follow what I say. And like, okay, we can get in some minutes, and then we could
yeah,
slowly build up to it. Versus like, okay, I know this coach won't listen to me, so we're gonna have them out, and
yeah.
then we're gonna do stuff on in with me to build them up to that tolerance.
See, I also have some coaches, and this is probably a bad thing. in my eyes. But like we've had some coaches who think that their patient or our patient should remain out instead of participating, even though they're healthy enough to participate, and
Yeah.
we've cleared them to play. Like I don't know if that ever happens in your setting, but like especially in like track, like someone says, "Oh, I think I'm having like an off day," and they may be 100% healthy, and their coach is like, I think they need to be out for a while," and it's like, why? Like there's nothing physically wrong with this person.
Yeah. And why is the question, right? Why?
Yeah,
What's their
absolutely.
motivation?
Yeah,
Are they are they keeping them out because like they're trying to motivate the athlete? Are they keeping them out because they feel like the athlete might be burnt out or something from the sport? Like give them a break mentally,
yeah.
you know?
Maybe. I was like that, or like it could be a lot of times, especially with like collegiate track or in high level track. It's one of
Yeah.
those things where you're also trying to score points as a whole. And if this person's not in the mental right mind space, then they're not scoring points for the team, and there's someone else who could be scoring points instead of
Yep.
that person.
Yeah.
So
Certainly.
yeah, and they need a reason to keep them out. So
But
uh,
yeah, so that's my I guess a little spiel. It
yeah,
does, however, that article does end up saying in the conclusions that
hmm
they should be focusing more on the independent care model in order to recognize when decision making can be influenced, because they believe that if you're hired through the school system itself, that you're not aware of the influence that you're. They don't believe that the athletic trainers were really aware of how much influence was happening, which I could certainly
right,
see, and I could see
absolutely.
that on both sides, really.
hmm
So
Well, let me tell you a little bit about mine because mine slightly differs from yours,
yeah,
especially since I'm in a different setting. So
yep.
again, I'm in the collegiate setting. I personally work football, and so we have what we'd call an independent model. But what it is we are funded through the university, but we are overseen by our team physician. And so all of our Center for Sports Medicine reports to the director of sports medicine, and he or she um, will report to both the dean of the College of Health and Human Sciences and our general medical physician, who is through a hospital system right beside us. We also, however, use a orthopedic hospital system based out of Indianapolis, and but we are not directed under the guidance of that orthopedic hospital. Although we use them for all of our orthopedic injuries, we are not governed by them. We are governed by uh, the hospital that's by us that has our general medical physician there. So anytime we have an orthopedic injury, we send them out to our physicians out in Indianapolis, but we still have to notify our general medical physician that there is an injury so that he knows what's going on. But fortunately, he gives us free reign, basically, of the medical treatment that we like. He gives us our scope of practice, obviously, and then we operate through those boundaries. But
So
yes, go ahead.
what are the purposes of having these two different paths that go up that funnel? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so the hospital system that we use, there's two different hospitals in Terre Haute where we are.
Yeah.
We choose to use the one that we do because they have, in our opinion, better medical care. But that hospital system doesn't have, quote unquote, the funding that it takes to be able to run our Division 1 football conference or football clinic at the level as we need.
Yeah.
And so we are funded through the university. So all of that money that they get as a state funded school comes to us. And this is from my understanding. Again, there could be some inaccuracies in there. Let me
Yeah.
just go ahead and
So
quote that. But yes,
you would be still competing with the sports funding purposes, right?
yes.
Okay.
The thing is, though, as a school, we make a lot of money. And so we get a lot of the funding I think we get a significant amount of funding that's structured every year. It's the same budget every year, so it doesn't really change.
Yeah.
Um, but in the past 2 years, at least that I've been here, it's not been an issue. We've had an over more money than we've had to spend
Yeah.
every year, so it's not been an issue. But it could be an issue. That's part of the cons of the system, I believe.
Yeah.
But I think the pros of it is that although we have that direction from the university standpoint, and really, like anytime we've ever had to reach to the academic or athletic side of things, it's for like utilizing buildings and or
Mm-hmm.
expanding buildings in the university. So
Yeah.
like we've been able to add hot tubs, but we've had to break down walls of certain buildings to get them in there.
Yeah.
And we've like there was a PT clinic across the hallway that closed down, and so now we have access to that. And so we're also over like our medical model also includes our strength and conditioning staff. So our strength and conditioning staff reports to our director of sports medicine.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yes, so that's another reason why that's part of that athletics model because they get funded too
Yeah.
from that, where the hospital would not want to fund uh,
Yeah.
strength and conditioning.
So, okay. Any
I
questions
think,
from the audience? Okay.
yeah, I think
um,
part of that though, I think there can be some more cons to that though, is that sometimes there's probably a higher scope of influence outside of what our directives go. Does that make sense? Like
yeah.
if it's a triangle that goes up to the top, there's probably more outside influences than there is coming from the top down.
I also wonder, like, because you're being exposed to two different bosses, kind of,
Hmm.
that if that increases your exposure but decreases the intensity of that exposure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think I could agree with you in certain respects. Like personally, all of the athletic trainers don't deal with at least the athletics boss. Like we are all under that triangle
Yeah.
of the director of sports medicine. So that's who we all technically branch out to.
Yeah.
But we communicate with our team physician, obviously, because he's our team physician. But usually, when there's a problem or an issue, that goes to our director of sports medicine before it comes to us.
Yeah.
Usually, does that make sense? So it's
Yeah.
like it's more stress probably on the director of sports medicine than it would be for the other athletic trainers or other people that are under that model as well.
Yeah. So, what does all this mean?
That there is a lot of influence, I would say. It
Yeah.
brings us kind of back to our sphere of influence,
Yeah.
as we say. There's not one person or one entity that is influencing athletic trainers' decision. And it's physicians, it's athletic directors, deans, coaches, parents, depending on your setting,
And
uh,
what's the most important one?
the patient,
Yes.
because we want to give patient-centered care.
Correct. And so I
And
think
how do we do that?
being ethically and morally sound, in my opinion, no matter what model you're in,
Absolutely.
because there are
Absolutely.
pros and cons to each of these models, right?
Yes,
I think
of
the
course.
independent medical model is the one that's pushed most often, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm going to describe a model here that's just started up. It's in 2 counties right now. Personally, I think it's the right path, but I'm not sure which one of these it falls under because I don't know where
Hmm.
the money's coming from and stuff. But
Yeah.
they're hired through their county, right? But they don't answer
Okay.
to their athletic director. They actually
Okay.
answer to like the head athletic trainer for the whole county. And
Oh, yeah, I've seen
I
this.
can't remember
Yes.
their term for that. I think it might be sports medicine director or something along those lines.
Yes.
But it's budgeted through the county. and it doesn't compete with the other sports or the academics really, not directly, because like the federal, state, or county budget is a budget and they all compete against each other for the money.
Right.
But it's like its own little allotment, right? So they are very focused, and I love what they're doing right now. They're focusing on some prevention strategies for the athletes. And I just think it's like, it actually can athletic trainers will actually be able to be athletic trainers and focus on all aspects and give good patient-centered care. But I'm just not sure what one that actually falls under, because it's not like
I think it's a mixture of like an academics model rather than an athletics, but it's also kind of a medical model in a way.
yeah, but it's not like a clinic,
No.
but it's like
What?
this, you know?
So there's a hospital system in North Carolina and Georgia. So they're right on the border, so they split
Yeah.
between the two states. And this was a high school setting that I first was a student in, as an athletic training student. And my preceptor, my boss at the time, he was that head athletic trainer of all the people in that county per se. But they reported to a singular hospital system in this situation. But they all of the athletic trainers all reported to that head athletic trainer. Is that
Yeah.
kind of similar to what it was?
No. They
Oh,
have
okay.
their signing physicians are different physicians, like
Oh, okay.
with different entities even. They have a council of like other like different medical groups essentially, like a sports. I can't even remember what you would call it, but it's a committee essentially that's made up of like local healthcare providers with this head guy involved, and like they talk about things that they can improve, projects they're working on, things like that. If they can get assistance from these other medical providers or not, you know. The big leverage would be referrals, right? Because at a high school setting, we still need to refer out no matter who your employer is, because we just don't have the resources really.
Right.
You know, so I think that would be their big gimmick for like surrounding healthcare providers to help with certain things and almost donate their time or, you know, use of things. You can get like a free like pre-participation evaluation or things like that, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
What do you see as the con of that? Because I know you talked a little bit about the pros, but what are some of the cons of that system that
I'm
you're
not
saying?
sure. Maybe
Would it be funding, or do you think since it's
well, that's the
county
thing.
owned?
They are making a lot of money.
Oh, okay.
One of my friends works in it, and yeah, we'll
Okay.
just say they're on the same pay scale as admin
Okay.
for a high school, and so it
Mhm.
would not be uncommon if they're making six figures at a high school as an athletic trainer.
Wow. That's
So
not bad.
yeah, which is easily double my salary right
Yeah.
now. So it's like, you know, they're getting the pay, right? They're doing a lot of these things and implementing a lot of good policies and stuff. And now
Yeah.
I'm kind of on the end, like, ooh, let me try to adopt that. Adopt that.
How do you think how do you think we can adopt some of these things? Like when we think of our own athletic model, my thing is what change can we make? And I guess this is also something for a future episode, but
Yeah, this is definitely
what
for a future
yeah, I
episode.
was sitting there like sitting there thinking like how can we adopt?
But
What can we
I
change?
want everybody to
Safety?
like think about that, right? Because we're going to talk about that in the next episode, right?
Absolutely.
What actions can we take? What deliverables, things like that, that we can take to try to get ourselves to that point.
Yeah.
So, anything else you got, What do you got?
No.
I feel like there's something else we want to talk about here.
I feel like there is too, but if not, we can hit you up with it in the next episode too. But looking into some of the articles, so um, like in I think
The
this is the
collegiate
high
one.
school one. No, this is the secondary school one. I was
Okay.
looking at that kind of in the same paragraph you were kind of looking at earlier in
Yep.
the decision-making authority. Talking about the participants that they had in the study. And again, I may have misread this part, but it's what got to me is it says participants felt like they had the ability to ensure student athletes followed a proper return to learn within their medical care. But later on down the line, it said that they felt like, and this actually I think was in both articles, is that they felt like regardless of the medical model they were in, most athletic trainers still felt as if they could give adequate care to be able to provide at least quality patient-centered care, or at least tried to make patient-centered care a priority.
Yes, I saw that actually a lot in this article that talked about the decrease in patient-centered care. That was not in the decision making, right? Where was that?
It is. I just saw it just a second ago, and then I scrolled. That's the bad part.
I know. I have it pulled up on the screen for them to see here.
Yeah.
So
For you
if
guys
you're
who don't
watching
know,
the
we're
video,
just
you
like
can.
trying to read.
It is like half the. Maybe what'd you say?
I said, if you guys don't know, we're two dyslexics trying to read.
Yeah. Structure and support, maybe. Impact of COVID-19. No, it had to be in the decision making, right?
Yeah, I was like,
Did I
sure.
just like miss it?
I don't know.
Well, the decision making, ultimate decision making, a lot of it in the secondary school setting was the athletic trainer. And I think that's a little bit of our personalities too. I think we are, like I mentioned before, we have a lot of pride in what we do, and I think we should have that pride. But at the same time, I think we got to realize that, like, hey, we're treating people, and we're not treating our pride.
Right.
So,
I like.
no matter how much, like a coach wants somebody in, or we want somebody in, or back to play, like, it is up to the patient. And if you're in the secondary school setting, it should also be up to the. Wait, did I say parent? I meant patient.
You said patient, but
Okay.
it seemed like
But it
parents
should
were about to come out.
also be up to the parents.
Yes.
Because they are minors.
Yes. Most of them. Some of them can be 18.
Correct. But that also depends on your school system, I believe. Or your state, I believe, if they are, like, able to be, I guess, medically treated as a minor, if that makes sense. My high school in my county, like, they sign something essentially that says, like, they have to sign something when they're 18 to release them from their parents if they're still in school.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I was like, because I was 18 playing sports when I graduated high school, and I'm trying to remember if I did anything for that, but can't remember. That was a long time ago. Ugh.
Yeah, we're old now.
And I know. Oh, don't remind me.
Yeah. But I thought these articles were great. I would encourage you guys to read them, especially if you were confused with how we were describing things. So as always, guys, don't take my word for it. Don't take Josh's word for it. Do your own research and stay classy.
And in the next episode, we'll be talking about athletic training, job security, and different healthcare models. And we'll kind of go off a little bit of what we talked about today. So see you then. Ready?
Yeah, I'm like, I keep replaying what we are gonna say or talk about.
Yeah, and remember, we're just having a conversation. If we don't get it right, who cares? We can edit it out.
Yeah, who cares? We can edit. So, yeah.
All right, you want to send us out of here?
What do you mean? Wow, this one's gonna be rough to edit, dude.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh
I
man.
was like, do you want to conclude us on this episode, and then I'm gonna tell us about the next episode.
What do you want me to say? 3, 2, 1, and go.
Hey everybody, happy St. Patrick's Day and welcome back to Let's Talk DAT. Today we're going to be discussing... Alright.
What's up everybody? Thanks for